Hey guys, this is the video we didn't want to make. This is the video that we needed to make.
Yes, I am so sick of hearing about everyone diagnosing their husband as a narcissist, right? Everyone thinks their husband is a narcissist, and this is a problem for your marriage. Today in this video, we're going to cover what it is, who can diagnose it, why it's a problem, and what you can do about it. So let's talk real quick, the truth about narcissistic personality disorder. Is it a real thing? Yes, it is an actual clinical diagnosis, but guess how many people actually are diagnosed with this? Guess how many?
Wait for it, drum roll. They're not going to believe it.
Somewhere around 0 to 6%, but a lot of experts say it's only 1% of the population actually has NPD, right? And so what is it? Well, there's some characteristics that can fit the description, but this can only be diagnosed by a mental health professional, like a psychologist or someone in that mental health field. And it requires testing, and it requires a clinical exam. It requires assessments. Like, guess who cannot diagnose it? TikTok influencers, jaded spouses, your next door neighbor, whoever. And we hear this all the time, and it just drives us nuts. I'm not saying that in your case, maybe your husband isn't one, but probably the chances are pretty small that it is, right? Less than 1%, somewhere around there. So what is narcissistic personality disorder? Well, it has several characteristics, like they do have a grandiose sense of self-importance, right? They do have this deep need for admiration, and they do tend to have a lack of empathy for others. And you're like, oh, that's my husband. He has no empathy for me. He's selfish, right? They also do have a pattern of exploiting relationships. So this is a very dark, deep-seated personality disorder. And the issue with it is, as I said, it has to be diagnosed. It requires clinical exams. And you've got so many TikTok influencers, Instagram influencers, and all these people are like suddenly experts about narcissism because they had a husband who was selfish, right? I'm here to say, like, most likely, if narcissism is in less than around 1% of the population, probably your husband isn't one.
That's true.
And I know we're going to get hate in the comments. I know we're going to hear it. I know. True. Just bring it on.
Why is it only men? Why is it only men? That makes no sense logically. And that is what we see all the time. Every single comment, multiple times a day, often people are saying, well, you don't even know what my husband is the narcissist, and this isn't going to help for them. Okay, we could go on about this, but mental health professional, first of all, most of them are godless to begin with. Most of them are. They're diagnosing, therefore it is true. Now, how is your husband, how is that man ever to outrun that diagnosis? Forever and ever, he has that diagnosis. That now is therefore true. Because what does it say? What do they say about?
They say if you're a narcissist, you can't change.
Nothing can change.
Right? You can't change. And so therefore it is this death sentence on him, his ability to change, on your marriage, right? And that's how it feels.
Yeah. And so if that is what your belief is, that this is a hopeless situation, what are your options? 1, leave. 2, stick around and put up with it. And your belief is going to be nothing can change. God can't even change him. He is this way. Thus saith the mental health professional. Or thus saith, even worse, the TikTok articles I've read over and over again. If you ladies, if you watch one TikTok video about narcissistic husband, you're going to see 2,900 of them a day. Like, you're going to be bombarded with it. And I'm here to say that this is something that the enemy is using to take you out, to take out your marriage, to take out your family. And it's attack on men. It's attack on God's design. Now, let's be clear here. When husbands and wives are wrestling in their marriage and they're hurting, and we're not here to say you're not hurting. It might be really hard. We've been there. We've been when we were both very much hurting, but that doesn't make narcissism diagnosis true. And it certainly isn't going to make things better if you go down that road. Right. It's not, because here's the thing. What does God say? What is God's word? Does he say that that there's no hope for you? Of course not. We're thinking about like Galatians 5. It says like we've got a problem, and that is our sin, right? And what if the narcissism, the heart of the problem is that it's sin? What if That's as simple as it is. Now, sin can look like a lot of things. Galatians tells us, like the sexual immorality, the impurity, the debauchery, idolatry, the witchcraft, the hatred, all that stuff. Like this is where we used to be. That's who we used to be, yet that still infects us, right? We still have the same nature. But here's the thing we want to say. There is no change, not real change apart from God. So even if narcissism is a true thing, and we're not here to say that it doesn't exist, even if it were true, does that mean that even God can't change them? Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Of course, the Spirit of the living God who made us, with him all things are possible.
Right. Because it's a very dangerous thing to put a label on someone. And now with that label, we get to dismiss any of our responsibility. We get to fully blame them. We get to say, well, he can't change. And I'm just stuck here. And this is just how it is. And there is like literally no hope there. But in the worst of us, every single one of us, the problem with every single one of us is our sin nature. And ultimately comes down to we are hardwired for selfishness, right? Yeah. Which is what most people point to when they say, oh, he's a narcissist because he's very, very selfish. Guess what? Yeah. We are all bent that way. All of us have to learn to die to ourselves. All of us have to learn how to be selfless, right? Mm-hmm. As we let the Spirit of God change us. And so when we label our spouse and when we are putting a name on them, saying that they can't change, we get to fully blame them. It's hurting our marriage because you give up all your power too, right? It's like, well, he's a narcissist. I can't do anything. And it's just very dangerous, especially for Christians, because as you said, Scott, like there's no sinner that could not be changed by the Spirit of God, by his word, by his power. We do not believe people are just beyond whatever with their diagnosis. Okay. Even if it is the 1% who's been diagnosed. And so here's the reality, guys. If you think your husband's a narcissist because you're hurting, he seems like he has those traits. You've had a lot of, watching a lot of those TikTok videos. You're like, yep, that's him. My challenge to you is, start to ask what else could be true. What else could be true? Could it be true that he's hurting? Could it be true that he needs an encounter with God? Could it be true that he is being selfish based on something that you're doing? Is there any part of it that's on you? Is there any part of it that you could own? Absolutely. Right? Where you can take some of your power back.
What if your marriage is what's struggling and you have two hurting people, you have two sinners, and it's as simple as that. Two sinners that are not showing up very well, maybe even leading with their sinful nature. Like that. I mean, that's a lot of what we talk about in our program. If you're leading with your sinful nature, where is that going to lead you? If you're angry, ticked off, bitter, and you're angry at God, and you're so angry at God because he gave you this terrible husband. We know this isn't a popular message. And ladies, you're going to be bombarded by our prayer. You're going to be bombarded by lots of different things out there, and they're hitting you. They're attacking you. It's demonic. It's trying to take you out in nature, most of the stuff that's out there. So what I want you to for the 2, 3, 10, 20 people that hear this message is for you. There's hope with the Lord. There's hope with God's word, and his message for us is that there is hope, and that our hope is not that we can just do the change ourselves. It's that it's with him. All things are possible. And I don't care who says it's not possible. He is the God of the miraculous. Have we forgotten that? If we profess his name and then we're going to go down and listen to what all the godless psychobabble is going to tell us instead, how dare we do that, friends? We've got to go back to the heart of our Father. And what does he say about our situation? And if you're out there today and you're thinking, okay, this is resonating. I wonder, maybe I just don't know what's going on with my husband. That's probably the case. Probably he's been acting up and he hasn't known how to show up. He hasn't known how to fix things. And he knows inherently as the man that he's called to lead you unto him. And if he's feeling like a failure, he's not going to be leading you. He's going to feel like a failure to God too. He's not going to be leading you into the Lord, and he's going to just kind of shut down. It doesn't mean he doesn't want to. It just means he's stuck. And it could be as simple as that. And so that's what we love doing, is helping couples when they're stuck. And if that's you today and you're like, okay, I've never heard anybody talk about stuff like this before, we want to encourage you to reach out and book a breakthrough call with us. You can do that at turnaroundmarriage.com/call. Pick a time that works. We're pretty booked up here in the next few days, but pick a time that works and we'll get on the phone and talk about where you're stuck, but also where you want to go, and then a strategy to get there. And if we can help and we know that we're a good fit for working together, we're absolutely going to talk about what might be possible together.
That's right. And, ask your husband if he would get on the call with you. You never know. You never know what God could do.
True.
On a breakthrough call, right? There's so many things that happen on those calls where it's like the light turns on and you realize the need for change, and you take that next step toward healing, toward wholeness in your marriage, toward oneness, toward selflessness, right? Toward a Christ-centered marriage again. So please hear our heart in this. We're not here to bash anybody. We're just here to say, listen, we don't need labels. We don't need, sometimes putting people on, in categories can be helpful, but labeling people and going, that's just who you are, and putting that as your identity, it's very dangerous. It's very, very hurtful for your marriage. So if you want, book that call at turnaroundmarriage.com/call.
And you might be very surprised at what might come out from your husband's perspective on that call. Guys, we wish you the best. Walk in the hope of the gospel. Walk in the hope of who God says you are today. God bless.
Bye-bye.